Hi everyone, Marie Barclay here from Why I'm So Studying, and welcome back to episode 16, where I have the absolute honor and pleasure of introducing you to the gorgeous Joergette Medel. She's married with 4 children, believe it or not. She doesn't even look old enough to have children, but she's also the daughter of one of my very good friends, Maddie Medel. So I'm absolutely honored to have her come on and share her story about her first marriage and the trials and adversities that she faced in her life at that time. But just a little bit about Joergette. She is the soul igniter, and she empowers purpose-driven women to rise and transform their pain into passion, purpose, and power, which is the delightful name of this podcast. And so ultimately, she's creating a wonderful platform for these women to live their passions and absolutely be in love with their life. So her mission is to help women embody their true authentic self and remove the blockages that are holding them back from realizing their true potential. And as an international speaker, an author, a passion coach, as well as an intuitive guide, Joergette integrates practical tools with spiritual practices and facilitates transformational healing journeys for her clients. So I am super, super blessed, and I know that you're going to enjoy listening to this podcast and you're going to learn so much. At the end of the day, like myself, Joergette is someone who helps women come back to their hearts, embrace their shadows, and shed the things which no longer serve them. And she serves to remind women that they are spiritual, infinite beings having a human experience, and strives to provide tools to help these women live in alignment with their passions and purpose. So I will come back on towards the end. All right, thank you and enjoy.
How are you?
Joergette?
I'm very well.
Oh, I'm good
considering the crazy
I know.
the craziness of the last couple of years. It's like bushfires, COVID, now floods. Like it's
and then the war happening as well. People in detention, people in prison. Yeah, it's all just very.
There's a lot.
There's so much to take in, isn't there? Yeah.
Well,
so tell me what has been happening, and congratulations, darling, on your book, on being one of the co-authors in the book.
Thank you.
When I saw that, I thought, oh, how cool. That is so neat. Yeah. Tell me a bit about that and why you chose to tell your story now at this time.
Look, great question. So I've been, as you may or may not know, I am a speaker as well. I'm aspiring to do more of the speaking. So pre-COVID, I actually spoke in India and also in the Philippines at women's conferences. And really there, I was actually sharing my story around from heartbreak to being the heroine of my own life, sharing my story around being divorced and what's that like for a Filipino Catholic woman, especially with, I think in any culture, divorce is quite, there's a stigma around that. But I think from the upbringing that I've had and the culture that I've come from, it's very much
shunned upon, isn't it?
It's very divorces, much, It's apparently it's even illegal in the Philippines. Like people can't even get divorced, and so that's why people just stay together. Well, this is only from research that I've done that apparently, it's illegal. So even though people don't want to stay together, they can't because it's just legally not allowed. Okay. So I'm just like, it's deep-rooted. It's deep-rooted within the culture. Yeah.
So therefore, there's even more unhappier people because they can't let go of each other.
Yeah. Right? Well, they can't let go, or they'll just basically be like, okay, well, we're together, but we'll live under the same roof, but we're not really together.
Yeah. Well, not together physically or emotionally.
Or they basically may even separate, but legally they can't even cut ties. They might be consciously, but there's still the ties, the unconscious ties that bind them, the energetic cords and everything, because the system won't even allow it.
Yeah. Oh my God. I didn't know that about the Philippines. There you go. I knew that you had done some speaking in the Philippines, but I didn't know about India.
Well, India was in 2019. So that was
was before all the COVID stuff, right?
So 2019 was when I officially became an international speaker, because that's when I flew to India. And then in 2020 was when I went to the Philippines. So
Yeah.
it was the following year. And then I got back just in time before the borders started closing.
Yeah. And
in
how
March.
did they come about? Like, how did you get invited to do that? Or did you go about doing it
So the first one, so the one in India, it was actually through Facebook, through one of the women that I follow. She basically put out a post. This is for the Women Economic Forum. So she had put out a post saying, that there's this event happening in April in India. They're still looking for speakers. If anyone's interested, here's the website, go and check it out. And so I thought, ooh, okay.
Yes, and it was seemed the right time.
Yeah, like it just has, how when you get a calling or a pull
you
to
just
do something.
know, don't you?
And it was just this like, oh my God, I've got to go there, I've got to do it. And, it was basically a forum that it was a week, 6 days. It was a 6-day conference. And there were speakers basically from all around the globe. And they had the main stage, but they also had, they didn't call them breakout rooms, but they had other rooms for other speakers. So it literally was like 6 days of speakers. And
it was in a conference room, or was it in a resort?
It was in a hotel. And I can't remember the hotel now, but it was in a nice, classy hotel in India, in Delhi, New Delhi.
Yeah, okay.
And so it was
in the main area.
It was the main area, but basically the conference rooms, and then they had all the meeting rooms that they booked out.
And that's where you stayed, right? You physically stayed at the hotel as well.
I did.
To make it easier.
It just made more sense. It just made more sense because they had a package and stuff like that. So I stayed there for the 6 days. And then I got the opportunity to speak on the main stage and actually received an award. Like, you nominate yourselves for these awards. But the one that I was Iconic Leaders Changing the World, something along those lines. So I received that award, got to share a little bit of my story on stage. And then there was a couple, I think 2 or 3 smaller sessions, which went for about 15 minutes. So I had the opportunity to, they had topics. But a lot of the topics that I chose were really around, your passions and your purpose, but also embedding my own story and sharing how I, just continue to follow my passions. And here is where I am now. So, I just basically shared my story, and a lot of I'd get women coming up to me at the end saying, wow, like your story really resonated with me. And a lot of these were like African women. Like they had African women there, like, coming up to me. Who had
travelled over?
They travelled,
this 6-day
for this, for this. So they either came from Africa or some of them came from the US. But it was an international event. But it was interesting that a lot of the women that came to me and actually spoke to me at the end were like the African women. So I just kind of felt that was an interesting.
It
was interesting. And they really resonated with my story and with what I had shared. So that's what I guess started the whole, I was like, you're an international speaker. And then the one in the Philippines, again, it was through another lady. It was not even through Women Economic Forum, but another
source of yours, right? Source, because when you put it out there, it comes to you.
It comes to me. So so it was another one that was meant to happen, but it kind of didn't. It kind of fell through, and so. The organizer that was going to take it to, I think it was her story. It was her story. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her story.
What was her name?
Her name is Joergette Medel. And so she initially had sent out this thing about doing like a speaking. It was going to be like a global thing that they were going to go all around the world. But then it fell through, the one in the Philippines kind of fell through. And so the lady that was going to be organizing it in the Philippines, she said, well, I'm just going to do my own one. And it was she called, because she was like, she's in America and she has
access to.
She has business in America. And so, but she's also a Filipina as well. So she's a Filipino American and she's got connections and contacts in the Philippines. So she had basically organized this event and said, we'll do it in February, and if you're still keen. So I was just like, yes, I'm definitely still keen. And that happened in February. So that happened. I was there for about a week, and I hadn't been back to the Philippines in like 15 years.
Oh, wow. So that would have been great for you.
To be there.
And what month was that, hun?
It was February 1 and 2 in 2020. Yeah. So that's when the actual event was. And then I spent like the next few days just kind of
hanging out with the
hanging out.
fam.
But I got to visit my old, I guess, home.
School? Oh, home.
Yeah, school. I literally like I because I didn't have much time, so I had like a day.
Long time, right?
It was, yeah. I had a day. I basically caught a bus, and that is like I've never like done
Caught
this
a bus,
over there. I caught a bus from Manila to like Olongapo City, which is where I had, was born.
Yeah.
And my auntie picked me up there, and we basically she drove me around the whole day. And then they ended up driving me back to Manila that same night, just because I was just like, I didn't have any other time to visit. So they took me. I said, "Oh, like, where do you want to go?" And I'm like, "I'd like to see my old school. I'd like to just not that anyone would remember me, but it was more just for me."
Yeah. So
like,
you would
can we go visit my old home? Yeah. So it was so surreal just to be there and see the family, or whoever could make it for the lunch and dinner and stuff. And then they drove me back, and then that was it. And then I had I think 2 days left, and then just hanging out and chilling out and just catching up with whoever I could while I was there. But came back, and a few weeks later they were like shutting down all the borders.
Everybody has to stay home.
So it was quite surreal. But the interesting thing was there was another opportunity for me to go back there in March, but it fell through. But I'm like, okay, well, everything happens for a reason.
Exactly.
And, if I had actually gone back, I probably would have been stuck there.
Yeah.
All the borders were closed, and so
no, which is not good. It's so funny because on that year, the 2020, that was the year I was meant to attend with my martial arts teacher to India, right? Because she goes back every year, and she teaches a group, or she's involved with a group called the Red Brigade.
Okay.
Where they teach women how to do martial arts and self-defense as well. Yeah, but she had invited me, and I was so looking forward to it, right? But then I remember also there was another trip planned to go to Jordan, to go to Israel with my Connect sisters.
Oh wow!
From Hillsong, who I'm no longer with.
Yeah.
But I thought, oh, that's so good, because while I'm there, I'll get baptized, right? I'll like to get baptized in the same sort of river.
Why not?
Jesus
right?
got baptized. If it's possible, right? But everyone is sort of trying to say to me now, at my local church now, Joergette Imaginations Church, in where Penrith Christian School is. There's a water baptism, I think this weekend or the weekend after. And they're also saying, get baptized. But it's such a big deal to me. I would like for my entire family, right, and my really close friends to be with me. I don't just want to do it because,
for the sake of doing it,
church says water baptism this Sunday or something, right? That doesn't make any difference. And I remember when I was talking to another friend who I don't know very well, and she's from Hillsong, but she's a businesswoman as well. And she was saying, when you do get baptized, can you let me know so I can come? And I was just like, so,
that's beautiful.
Honored about that, because, that someone wants to see you sort of come under the start a completely fresh new life with God. But as you're speaking, I can feel, and I know also too, Hun, I mean, I've got a really good intuition. I know that we've been sisters from a very long time ago. I know that I'm very close friends with your dad, but he always speaks so highly of you. And he usually says to me too, you remind me so much of my daughter. And I'm going, oh, well, that's good. That's a nice compliment, Maddie. I'll take that.
Oh, bless. God love him.
But
no, he actually, because I said, he's like, oh, how did your book launch go? And I said, Marie was there. She's like, yeah, I sent her the thing. And I was like, oh, that's how she found out about it. I was like, oh, thank you.
And it was because of Roundabout Way. And I thought, oh, my God, how cool is that? So I just started to share. And
that's awesome. Thank you. That was such a great honor to have you there and to share as well. Like that was, I was like, oh, bless you, thank you. Because it was like, obviously what we wanted to do with the book launch was, we wanted to have like face-to-face events and things like that, but with everything that's going on, it just wasn't possible. It was just, we're like, okay, we're going to just do an online launch and then just go from there. But I'm thankful because so it's like, even though I've shared my story in, through my speaking in I guess in some parts, this was more fleshed out because I had a whole chapter, like it was a 3,000 word chapter.
Wow. Okay.
And so I was, it wasn't really just my story. It was, my story plus what I did to get through that, and what are the lessons that I learned, and how I overcame, the challenges and the adversities that came with that. So
what did you name it, Joergette?
My chapter, I named it "Transform Your Pain into Passion, Purpose, and Power." So it was really because I truly believe that, your crisis or crises can really be a catalyst to your own transformation.
Yeah.
And it resonates with obviously your whole thing about, still standing, I'm still standing. And it's really because of the, whether it's the traumas, the challenges, we've all had our challenges. We all have the obstacles and the journeys, the hardships. And not just one, but like multiple times over. And it's for me, when I look back, it's really those moments that really made me or that invited me. Like, in the moment, it's not easy, but I can look back at it now with perspective. But it is in those moments that you're asked to lean in, to surrender, to trust, and to really crack open. And it's just like,
I know. And you know what? Even though we're told not to be fearful, because we're holding God's hand, you're still fearful, right? Like you're still it's scared. Like
absolutely.
Like,
you're not
like
we're human.
we're
human.
Out of your control, and things are happening, and you don't know how they're happening. So of course you're going to be like, "Oh my gosh, how
you get into reaction?"
Happen?
Even though you're like, "Oh, yes, I should know better." But it
still alarms you, yeah.
It's still, absolutely. Like, yes, you learn the lessons. Yes, it doesn't maybe have as much of a charge, but I think I always believe that, once you've overcome something, it's like, yes, your comfort zone is much bigger, but also you're at your next evolution. And when it's time for you to evolve and grow, then the next thing comes up for you to then push through it or evolve through it or journey through it. And it's in those moments that really forces you to grow and just it shows you how resilient you can be and how powerful you really are as a human being, as a soul. I think it's when you trust in the divine and you trust in what is happening for you and not to you,
or through you, for and through
you, right? And it's having that shift in mindset that allows you, again, it's not easier, but it takes your power back. You give yourself permission to take your power back and say, all right, this isn't, I'm not a victim, even though I feel like one, but I don't have to choose to feel like a victim in this situation, in this scenario. Anyway, again, I can speak about that now, but as when we're going through these crisis points or these challenges, it's not always easy to take yourself out of the equation and to step back
because
and
you're
I've got a bird's eye view
engrossed in it.
But it was an honor for me to be able to share a deeper level of my story and actually getting
and
to
it
more,
is, isn't it, in words? It is so much deeper.
It's part of also I felt like it was part of my healing journey as well. It was at the next level of healing for me and for me to realize actually there's actually not a charge anymore. Whereas before when I first started sharing my story, I'd be like, I'd be like bawling my eyes out, I'd be crying and there's probably parts when I do still get teary, but it's not, for me, when I share my story, it really comes from a place of empowerment now, as opposed to in the past, it's kind of like me still journeying
telling your story.
Telling my story and healing myself through that. Whereas now it's like, this is what happened and I'm so grateful. Like I can be grateful for what happened, because if I didn't
be joyful for that grief, for that trauma that you've been through.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure if you've read the book by a lady called Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. I think I said that properly. And a guy called David Kessler. And so they wrote that book together. She's passed away now, right? But,
do you know what the book's called? Or?
Yeah, it's called On Grief and Grieving, the 5 stages of loss, which are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. But then after she wrote that book,
her and David. After that book, she actually added another two. She added shock at the beginning before denial, and she added integration after acceptance, right? So she actually came up with 7 stages of loss.
Wow.
But after they finished that book, and then she passed away, David Kessler actually wrote a book on his own called The Meaning of Grief, the 6th stage, right? And I was actually bawling my eyes out the other day, 2 days ago, and that's why my notes are still fresh, because I got so much out of that just from my own experience, right, with Dad passing away.
Yeah.
And I had just finished a podcast with a girl sharing her growth journey through MS grief, right? Which is completely different grief because you're going to be having this chronic illness for the rest of your life. And so I felt, and I spoke about this book in the podcast, but for the life of me, I could not remember the name. So I had to go back and research it so then I could at least put it in the marketing, right? And so,
of course.
But listen, this man, David Kessler, and I will get his book because he actually lost his son. His son committed suicide at 21. Oh, wow. He is also a grief teacher. Like, he goes into hospitals and he works in palliative care, where people are about to pass away. Yeah. So, and when his son died, he just never felt that he could ever come out of that. But anyway, so he wrote about that, and he dedicated it to his son in heaven and his son here on earth. And just the way that he writes, and because he's such he's been through so much, right? And I just want to read, I sort of want to read his story because I know that it's going to help me. And I know by helping me, it's obviously going to help all the people that I interview for podcasts or that I work with as my clients. Yeah. And just in general, day-to-day speaking, right? Absolutely. You have to put meaning. It's called, it's called Finding Meaning, the 6th stage of grief. So, but yeah, I'm definitely going to get it in a hard book, right? In a hard book, because I feel that it's something that I'd like to keep and sort of keep reverting back to.
Referencing.
Yeah. But I remember him saying that healing doesn't mean that the loss didn't happen. It means that it no longer controls us, and that's exactly what you're talking about, Joergette. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And loss can be anything, right? Separation, divorce, death of a loved one. It's not. Yeah, grief comes in.
And it affects people in different ways, and it's even grieving who you used to be or who you thought you were as a person. Because we go through our own death and rebirth. We go through my belief, we go through different evolutions in our lifetime. And because, who we were 10 years ago is not who we are today. And so when it's like, we're constantly shedding, we're letting go of what no longer serves us. We're letting go of the old life or the old persona that not just the persona, but the identity that we have held on to for such a long time. And so when you let go of that, it's just like, that still to me is grief, because you're grieving a part of you that you have held on to for such a long time. But in order for you to grow and evolve, you do have to let that go. Otherwise, you remain stuck. And so there is still grief in that, even though it's, you're losing a part of yourself or who you think is a part of you.
Yeah.
So there's definitely grief in that too.
Yeah, I wrote to someone last night. Actually, he is my stepson's ex-boyfriend. So I was just keeping in touch with him. But I wrote to him last night and I said that I felt 3 years ago when I was with Chris, I felt that I had it together, right? I felt that I was, that I knew myself then, and I felt that I was being truthful then. But I realize now, Joergette, 3 and a bit years later, that I wasn't, that I was not that. And it's exactly what you were just talking about, right? Yes, I've been grieving for my dad, but yes, I've probably been grieving for that as well, right? Yes. The shedding, because I absolutely know, that, my journey with God, obviously, within sort of the last 1.5 years has just magnified, right? Like, I don't even know how things happen sometimes because the Holy Spirit just works in miraculous ways.
Mysterious, miraculous ways.
Yeah,
yes.
and too many to be a coincidence, right? It's just there's just too many for that to be a coincidence. So, but yeah, no, I think for me, and I actually wrote about this in my Instagram. I did actually grow closer to God after reading this book called Unmasked. And it's by a lady from New York. She actually lives in Australia now. But
what's it called?
It's called Unmasked, a remarkable true story of transformation and redemption. So I believe you would really, really love it. If I do see you, you could borrow my copy. But it's
called Unmasked. Who's the author?
Yeah. Diane Spicer. And we became contacts because she wants me to start a food for thought here in Sydney. It's after you've shared your story with me, if you don't mind, or even you don't have to share all of it, but it's just so then I get a bit of a sense of what you've gone through. But your dad knows because I mentioned it to your dad, and I also wanted to mention your dad about being one of my co-partners in the Food for Thought group, because the Food for Thought is all about inviting business people, not just business people, but business people then to invite non-Christians or non-Christians to come to my house and we share food. And obviously we're going to share, we share verses of the Bible but it's just so much more than that. It's more than alpha. It's more than, it's really quite, there's a system. You've got to, produce good food and you've got to serve people. It's all about, really doing what Christ does, right? Anyway, so that's how I met her, Diane Spicer. But then when I first spoke with her, I remember wearing this cap, and so we originally, which I actually got when I was in New York. And anyway, so we just clicked quite straight away. And when she sent me the book and it was autographed, for nothing, I just knew that it was something that I was meant to have read at that time. Absolutely. And it obviously got me through another not so good period, right? Because I read it in September, and it probably would have only maybe taken me a week to read if I had read it the way I would normally books. But it took me nearly 2 and a bit months, hun, to finish reading it, because it was that explosive that I had to come away from it, right? I had to
there's that integration
yeah,
process,
because it's no point of just reading it and thinking, oh, I'm going to be able to do that. But because there's lots of references to the Bible, to the verses of the Bible, and so I was then going, tagging that page and then going to the Bible and then reading probably not just that verse but the whole chapter, and it just really sort of just made me grow even more in love with God and what He has to offer, not just me, right, but for everyone on this planet. So anyway, so hi, honey.
It was his birthday.
Yes, hi, Anastasia. It's lovely to meet you. My name's Marie.
Well, Marie wanted to say happy birthday. Yeah, Marie.
Happy birthday, darling.
Thank you.
And give your grandpapa a birthday hug as well when you see him this weekend, okay?
Because it's his birthday. Lola's birthday. Yeah. And she's saying, love you to meet you. Okay, we'll
love you to meet you too.
Darling, all righty. Love you. Bye.
Okay.
See you, Antoinette. Oh, how sweet, hon. How sweet.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, and it was your husband's birthday not long ago, too, that I remember. March is a lot
full on. Because it was, so the girls were February 23, and then Anthony's was the 1st, and then Dad's is on the 2nd, and then mine comes on the 25th.
Oh, so there you go. Yeah, mine's tomorrow, actually. So we're are you Pisces?
No, I'm Aries.
Oh, you're on the other side.
Yeah, on the other side. Yeah, I'm an Aries. But and so I've got I'm surrounded by Pisceans.
Yeah,
all like flowy and fish, and whereas I'm like fire.
yes, because the water and the fire. Because my husband was Scorpio, right? My husband was Scorpio, and so they actually say that those signs should they don't go together, but
Okay, so I'll be out soon. Okay, one more thing, one last thing. She just wants to show her.
Okay.
It's a bit hard to see, but let's see. There you go, the scarf. Okay, I'll be out.
Oh, that's a lovely scarf. Was that a scarf?
Yes, it's one of my scarves. I'll see you soon, okay? Thank you.
Was that Antoinette or Anastasia?
That was Anastasia.
Oh, she was the one that came first, wasn't she?
She's the one that came out first. Which is that's even that in itself, the story of their birth, even this to surrendering that. Because I ended up having like an emergency cesarean.
Yes.
That's another book.
Wow, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's just it's amazing how God works. And I think one of the hardest things I've had to do is wait, right? Because I had all these things planned for this year, Joergette, right, to start my Activation mini course, because the one that I did last year, the feedback that I got, it was just overwhelming. It was just too overwhelming. It was probably overwhelming for me too, teaching it, right? But I'm so glad. I would not have changed it, because I don't think I would have learned the stuff that I learned or taught if I hadn't have gone through that. Because they say that if you truly want to learn something, you need to teach it, right? And by teaching it, it means, whether you're doing those
on a
classes,
different level,
or you're teaching via doing, talks, speaker talks or TED talks. And I must admit that I'm going to listen to your story, and then I'm going to tell you or recommend some things for you after that, because I'm sort of going down that path now, amongst some other things, right?
That's exciting. I'm sure there's multiple. It's like us women, we have multiple things that we're just like,
I know, and I get bored, right? I really do get bored. I even get bored, I don't get bored doing like my same oranges every morning. I don't get bored with that, but just the same sort of,
You need a bit of variety, and I think it's a bit like me as well. Like structure is good, and routines are good, but I also like the spontaneity, and I like to have things that I'm, especially when I'm excited about it, and the things that I'm working towards that I want to put my energy on. But it's good to have the different things.
And I remember seeing an ad the other day by a guy called Tom Barlew, and he said it's okay, if you stay up and burn the midnight oil for something that you're passionate with, and I'm thinking, so it's normal. It
is totally normal. Otherwise, why would you be up doing it, right, if you weren't passionate about it? So exactly. I think that's important. That just goes to show that's something that you really value.
Wow. But I will always remember that course, right? Because I did so much in that time. But
amazing.
Anyway, hun, share with me your story.
I mean, I'll share my story from what I would normally share, and then we'll kind of go from there and see where this goes.
Yeah.
And so really,
and feel free to stop if you don't feel like going forward.
No, I'm open. I'm very open. I'm just gonna. I don't even. Whatever will come out will come out.
There's no attachment. I remember you were talking before that you used to get teary. And you still do, and you will, right? For many
there's parts always. Of it. There's going to be parts that really still kind of.
There's still some that will still trigger something, right? And being emotional about it is just normal. I think
it's part of the vulnerability. Vulnerable
makes it more.
And but I guess for me, I'll start when I'll just share the story for what happened, and So I remember, I'll start from the very, very beginning in terms of my personal development journey. So, 2005 was really the start of my own personal development journey. And I remember my dad actually took me to a 3-day weekend with Christopher Howard. I don't know if you know of Christopher Howard. He doesn't do so much now, but way back when he was very big in the seminar world. But he took me to this weekend breakthrough to success, kind of like a Tony Robbins kind of thing, but not as hypey. As hypey. And so he took me to this weekend, and I had never been to anything like that before. And so this was like this whole new world. I was like, oh my God, like, wow.
And so much energy, right?
So much energy. And because this was my first step into this world, like I remember sitting in that auditorium and actually watching the speaker, like Chris Howard, and thinking, I want to do what he's doing. Like that was kind of like where
it
the
just
seed
came straight away.
That was
like
the seed.
The seed was planted
The seed was planted there, and I just got so like, oh my God, like that's what I want to do. Like I want to be the one on stage doing that and transforming people's lives. And so that's when it started, this seed of wanting to transform, or you know, what is this coaching? What is this whole personal development world? And so that's when it started. But I put my dreams to the side, because then at that time I was actually just newly engaged to be married, you know, with my ex-husband. And so we had gotten engaged and we were planning for this big wedding. And so it was kind of like, okay, well, I'm just going to put that aside. And even though I had gone to do the trainings, I actually went on and signed up to do his NLP course. You know, like I did his NLP course, and that was, you know, I became an NLP coach, but I never really did anything. I did it for my own personal development, and I learned a lot. And so
it helped with that.
It helped me, but I never really kind of ran with it and did any coaching, you know, with that. So I put that to the side, and I got married in 2007, and a year later I gave birth to, you know, my firstborn. So he was born 2007, and from that moment on, everything just became about everyone else. And, you know, as you know, when you become a mum,
especially a first-time mum.
And I, you know, I was young. Well, it wasn't young, but I was young enough, and, you know, first-time mum, and it was basically, you know, everything was like, okay, my whole world just became about the family.
And your baby.
I had to, and my baby, exactly, my new baby, exactly, because it was like, I was just like, new mum, what am I doing? Like, you know, I mean, I love being a mum, and I love that whole experience, and, you know, first time. But what I started to find was that, because I've always been a seeker, and I've always been someone who is like, what's my purpose? What's my bigger purpose? Like, what am I here to do?
What am I here to do?
What am I here to do? How am I here to serve? Right. And so that has always been a big question in my life. And when I became a mum, even though I loved being a mum, it was kind of like, I started to question, is this all my life is about? You know, not that there's anything wrong with that, but is this it for me? Like, is this my life? Like, just going to be a mum? And then, you know, I gave birth to my daughter in 2010. So then it became even more like, more challenging, because 2 kids. And even though there was a big part of me that wanted to, you know, do my own thing, do coaching.
So you have 4 kids?
I've got 4 kids.
I think I knew this, but it was good to be reminded.
I know, right? I still remind myself every day.
Wow. You're like super mom.
Oh, thank you. You know, and we weren't financially well off. And so I had to, you know, yes, I was being a stay-at-home mom, but then financially we were struggling financially. And so it was very much, once we were able to send the kids to daycare, it was like, okay, full-time work, even though there was a part of me that's like, oh, but I want to actually do my, you know, my workshops, my coaching, actually put the stuff that I've learned to use. And I wasn't very supported in that, because it was very much like, well, you know, you can do that business
outside
later.
Like after
later,
work or something.
But right now, or even like right now, we need you to work because we need the full-time income for both of us, which I get, like, you know, because my ex-husband was like doing 2 to 3 jobs at one stage just so that we could get by, and that's not healthy for anyone. So I was, you know, what does a good Filipino Catholic wife do? Listen to the husband, and you know, it's like, okay, I'll put my dreams to the side. I'll listen to you. I'll listen to you, because that's what I was expected to do, and that's what everyone was telling me to do. You know, the family, even though it's just like, but I want to do all these things, but I was like, okay, I'll do what you asked me to do, and I will go and get a full-time job and everything. So that's what I did. I, you know, went went back to work full-time, but then still that
niggling watch.
Niggling. And this is what I felt like. The more I did that, the more I was dying inside. Because I was actually not listening to what was calling.
What was the work that you were doing?
I was
What was the
working.
work,
I was actually a
after
trainer.
having your daughter.
I was working as a trainer for
Yeah.
employment services.
Okay. Yep.
Not right now, sweetie. I'll come out very soon.
I want to say something.
You can tell us.
My dad is going to the train station.
Oh yes, the daddy went to the train station. He'll be back very soon.
But can I tell her?
Okay, you can tell her.
Daddy go to the train station.
Yes, he went to the train station.
That's good.
Okay, to do his work.
Yeah, to do his bits. All right, darling. Thank you for
All right, I'll
telling
see
me
you soon.
that.
Okay, thank you.
See ya.
So yeah, the more I was making everyone else happy, the more I felt like I was dying inside.
Sadder.
Yeah, and I was like, I love, and that was the thing, that was the conflict that I was having, because I was just like, I should be happy. Like, I should be happy. I have a husband that's very committed. I've got my son, my daughter, where, like, yes, we're not financially well off, but I've got, I've got what I want.
You have riches in other areas.
Yeah. So like, isn't this what I wanted? And so I was having that conflict of, I should just be happy. Like, I should just be happy. But I really was like, on the outside, it's like, oh, you've got what you want. But on the inside, I really was dying. And no one really, I didn't have anyone that I could confide in at the time, because no one knew. Like, all my friends were very happy. Like, they were, they weren't in that same situation because they were happy. Like, they were very happy.
They admitted that they were happy.
Or
they were admitted, but you don't know what's going on.
I guess I don't know what's really going on. That's true. But for me, I felt like I had no one to confide in, because I was just like, well, my family are not going to understand. My friends won't understand because I don't know, I didn't feel comfortable to open up about that. And really go down that rabbit hole. And so I kind of just kept things to myself. But it started to really show, the cracks started to show in my marriage, because our communication started to die down. And what I said to myself was, okay, you know what, I'm going to just go back into personal development. I'm just going to do what I can. Like, I'm just going to go back into do seminars, do some workshops, do what I can, because I needed to fill my cup, because I wasn't filling my cup. So I started to fill my cup and doing what I could. And then in 2013, actually, before I get to that, as I was going through this journey of, learning about the law of attraction and, having, because I've always had big dreams, always had big goals, and talking about my dreams, but I would find that whenever I would share that with my ex-husband, I would get mocked. Or I'd be like, oh, stop living in La La Land. Like, come back down to earth.
He just sort of dismissed it, right?
Yeah,
he dismissed
come back down to earth, exactly.
Yeah,
so,
he didn't say, oh, tell me more about it, honey.
No, right? I wasn't encouraged to do that. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I won't say anything. So again, I felt like I was shut down, like I felt suppressed. I felt suppressed.
And the person that you want, and the one that you really wanted to share it with, you couldn't. So it was like, oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt very suppressed within the marriage, but I also felt suppressed even outside, because I felt like I couldn't talk about what I was going through, or the challenges that I was going through within my marriage. I had no one, even though I had a close girlfriend.
You sort of didn't think.
I didn't, but also even my friendships started to fall away. Like, I started to feel disconnected.
But that was because you were breaking through slightly, right? Now that you look back, you're probably thinking, because your friends will change, right? As you're elevated, as you're growing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they just won't get you. So it means that, they were there to serve. They were there to serve a purpose at that time, but then they serve that purpose. But then now they're completely different. You're completely different, and then you go on to meet new friends that then encourage you to meet other new friends, right? In that same sort of circle.
Well, that's what was happening at that time. So I felt like, oh God, I've got no friends. My husband's not supporting me. Like, I felt so alone. Yeah, like I was just like, it felt very dark, and I felt very like, oh, like, who
nobody understands me.
No one understands. I can't even have this conversation with my mom or my dad, because it's like,
you just don't think that
they just don't think that I understand, because it's like, I'm very much like my dad in the sense of, when you've got a dream, you go and you go and pursue it, right? But I also was just like, well, what are they going to say? Because
you were worried about
the judgment. And so I was like, no, I'll just do what I can. Like I can't do anything outside of it. I can only control what I do. And so that's what I did to fill my own cup. Started to do seminars and get to wherever I could. And in 2013, there was an opportunity for me to go overseas on a leadership cruise, which was going to take me away from the family for a week and a half. And so this cruise was going to go from Miami to Mexico.
Oh my golly. Do they have such a dream, right? Like
such a dream. And so I thought, and this was introduced to me by a friend who was going to go on this trip, right?
Yeah, right. So in your personal development field.
Circle, yeah, exactly.
Circle, right? Yeah.
And so this was a guide that I did. So I did the Passion Test certification, which, if you know, there's a book called The Passion Test, and it helps you to discover what your top 5 passions are. So
okay.
I'm certified.
It's not to do with the Passion Bible? No.
No. No. So there's a book.
The Passion version?
Completely different.
So it's called
the Passion Test by Chris and Janet Atwood. And I became a certified Passion Test facilitator. So I'm certified to run their workshops and also to do their programs. So one of my friends who became a really close friend, he mentioned about this cruise that he's going to go on to. And, he didn't even say you should go. He's just like, oh, come and check this out. But then I listened to the thing and I'm just like, oh my God, again, there's the pull.
Yeah,
there's that pull of I need to be at this cruise.
Yeah.
And then my logical mind's like, but what the F? Like
how am I going to get there?
No sense. What's that, like, logistically?
Where's the money going to come from?
All of that, right? All of that. And so I thought, okay. But then I remembered, but I've got my tax money, right? Like I've got my tax return that it's there, that I haven't touched, that's just sitting there. And I thought,
great investment.
I could pay for myself. Like I could pay for myself. I don't need to ask, the husband or anything like that. It's like, I've got the money to make it happen. And I was like, okay, I really want to do this. But it was like, no. And I said to him, I go, oh, there's this cruise. But
and he literally said
before,
no.
He literally was just like, no, you can't go. You can't go. Like, you can't leave the family, but you can't do that. And I'm just like, but why not? Like, he gave me all the reasons why I couldn't. All the reasons why I couldn't. Well, because, I had to look after the family, couldn't be away from the family for like a week and a half. And I'm like, it's only going to be a week and a half. When was the last? I've never been away from the family, like, ever.
Yeah.
And I thought it's only going to be a week and a half. And at the time we were living with his parents. So it was like, we've got help. It's not like we've got no one to look after the kids.
It's not like
it's not like we had no one. Like, we were living at his parents' house. And so we had help of his family. But it was like, no, like, you can't spend the money on that. And you can't, like, we could just, his thing was you could spend that on a family holiday. Like, why wouldn't you just spend that on a family holiday? We could all go on a holiday. And I thought, well, yeah, I could. But when was the last time I actually spent money on me? When was the last time I invested in myself that, to do something that was important to me? And he still was just like, nah, you can't go. Like, And so I was just like, well, I'm actually not asking for your permission. I'm asking for
sort
your
of
support.
sharing with you.
Yeah. Like, I'm sharing
this is what I feel as if I need to do.
Yeah, this is like such a strong pull for me. And I'm like, I'm not asking for your permission. I'm asking for your support. And I'm going to this.
But you were saying your communication was down, wasn't it?
It was breaking down because it wasn't like, it was challenging to even get through to him to explain from a heart space, how important this was, because he just kept coming back and he actually gave me an ultimatum. This is what he said: if you go on this cruise, I'm not going to be here when you get back. I'm just like, and I just thought, you got to be freaking kidding me. We have 2 kids. Like, don't be silly. Like, don't be silly. I'm not asking for your permission. I'm asking for your support. I'm going to this cruise. We'll talk about this when I get back. That was me, like, standing in my pad and shitting myself going, crap, like, what am I doing, And so I basically had made the decision. Energetically, I had already made the decision, but I had to just physically go and book the thing, right? Book the thing, but I wanted to obviously speak to him.
At least tell him, right?
Tell him that I'm doing this thing, right? And so, it was scary. It was very, very scary because I just, like, when I said it, I was like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? I'm putting my family on the line. Like, am I crazy for doing this? What the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, self-doubt was even coming up then, right?
Very, very much so. Even though, like, I was like, no, this is such a
even though you were super confident.
yes,
doing
I was
it.
committed to doing it, but I was just like
In your
shitting my
head.
pants.
Yeah.
Like, oh
Yeah.
my God, like, what am I doing? And so leading up to when I was about to leave the cruise, you know, we had this whole, his parents were like, what are you doing? Like, my parents were like, what are you doing? Like, you shouldn't be doing this. You
So
shouldn't
they were both not supportive? Both parts of the family?
no one
both
was,
parents? Yeah.
no one supported me. No one
Not
supported
even
me.
Maddie?
He wasn't not supportive, but he wasn't overtly like, yes, he wasn't defending me and like, let her do what she wants to do. He was coming from a place of neutrality well, you know, but it was very much like, I mean, especially my ex-husband's parents, they were very much like, what is this? And I even wrote a letter, right? I even wrote a letter to the in-laws to express, because I felt like those.
That was easier.
It was easier. So I wrote them a letter to say what this journey is about for me and why this is so important. And so I kind of just expressed everything onto that piece of paper, and I gave it to them. And the reply or the response I got was just like, well, what is this journey that you're on? Like this, and again, it was like they just
journey.
We went on that same level for them to really understand the meaning or the depth of this. And so, but I was like, you know what, that's their stuff. Like, I've given them what I can and I've expressed what I could. That's up to them to do what they want with it. And so the night before I was to fly out, because I normally wear, like, you know, I don't wear my wedding ring or my engagement ring to bed. So I took it off, put it on the bedside table. And the next day I wake up and the engagement ring is gone.
It's gone.
Like, it's gone, right? I still had the wedding band there, but the ring is gone. And I'm just like, I'm thinking, I mean, I knew.
Yeah, because you knew that you had put it down there. So
but so then he'd taken it obviously and hid it, right? And so I said to him, I'm like, where's the engagement ring? And he was just like, doesn't matter. I don't, you know, like, you're not having it. And I'm just like, okay, whatever, like, you know, and this is like before I'm about to leave, right? I'm just like, okay, that's fine. Like, it's, you know, it's material, like, it's fine. So I'm like, I basically just had my wedding band on. And so that was that. And then I was still shitting myself going, crap, like, am I actually making the right decision? Am I doing the right thing? And again, I just stood strong.
Stood your ground,
stood my ground and just like, okay, I'm going to follow through with this. I've already made the decision. Whatever consequences come from this, I will deal with it.
Yeah.
So I went on the cruise and it was just the most amazing trip.
Oh, and aren't you so glad you did it, Joergette?
No regrets, because I learned because I'd never traveled on my own.
Yes.
Ever.
And how it's like
so
empowering, isn't it?
So empowering, so liberating. Went out on my own. Like, even though I was going to know one person like on this trip.
It didn't matter because you got like this whole cruise ship,
right? And so I went and I was just like, oh my God, made so many new friends, so many new connections. I learned so much about my own resilience and just being able to travel on my own, and just the learnings and just the whole experience was just phenomenal, like so liberating. And so I thought, right, okay, I'm going to share all of this when I get back, and it's going to be amazing. And then I come back and it's like, no, nothing. Like, I just got met with more resistance when I came back. There was like the silent treatment. There was no talking, no welcoming party, no nothing, no happy for you to be back, just silence. And it got to the
point. Had that happened before though?
Not to that extent.
Right. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, not to that extent. And it became so bad that, because even if we would talk, or I would try to talk, it became a heated argument, and it would be just lashing out at each other, and it was like in front of the kids, and I'm just like, that's not healthy.
Not good for them. Yeah.
No, not good for anyone to witness. And so it really came down to text messages were the only way we could communicate without
amicably.
Which is like, that's so bad, right? Like, text messages was the only way we could communicate.
Yeah, and you know what? Text messages, emails can be misconstrued, right?
Yes.
And I got to the stage with my husband that I didn't really like receiving messages from him. I'd prefer that we talk, right? And I think we just made that a rule going forward.
So and then I remember I was actually starting a new job. So this was 2013 January, went on the cruise, had come back. I was starting a new job in March, first week of March, starting a new job as a career coach. And you know, this is like my dream job, you know, career coaching. And I get a text message from him my first day, his message was, oh, can you ask your boss if you can get time off in July or whatever it was. I'm thinking it's my first day at my new job. Like, you know, like I can't exactly go asking for leave, but I'm like, I go, look, I'll see what I can do. But I'm just like, oh, what do you need it for? Like, I was very neutral about it. I was just like, okay, well, I can ask, but I don't know what's my first day. What for?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, my cousin's wedding in the Philippines. I was like, okay. And then in that moment, I was just like, oh, because I had another.
So he hadn't spoken to you, but he texted you to ask you to take some time off.
Because he wanted to go overseas for a cousin's wedding. So I was just like, and then I actually hadn't said to him as well that there's another trip that I wanted to go on in April, right?
Yeah.
But this time it was going to be only a weekend. It was only going to be a weekend trip, but it was in like to Dallas, right, for a weekend seminar. And so I thought, well, this is probably the best time to say to him, to tell him, right? Since we're talking about going on trips. So I messaged him. So I said, okay, well, that's cool. Like, I'll see what I can do. By the way, can you take some time, like a weekend off in April? And his response was like, don't tell me it's for another fucking seminar. And I'm just like, why are you making a big deal about this? It's just like it is actually for another seminar, but this is going to be in Dallas. And he's like, you got to be freaking kidding me. You just came back from Miami. Now you're saying you want to go on another trip again. And I'm like, why are you making, and this is all through text, right? I'm just like, why are you making a big deal out of this? Like, I'm just following my heart and what I'm being guided to do. And his response was, that's fine. If you're going to follow your heart, then I'll follow mine. I made a mistake 6 years ago. I want a separation before you go to Dallas, on a text message. Wow. So I'm like sitting there, like first day at my new job. And I'm just like reading this, trying to keep my composure. I'm trying to not let the tears come out, because I'm just like, oh my God, like, how do I even deal with this? How do I respond to this?
Joergette, did you feel as if you wanted to just reverse those last 2 minutes of like, did you feel?
I was just like, it was so unexpected. Like, it was just very much like, but the thing was, by this time, I was so emotionally exhausted.
Yeah. That you just let it go.
I just like, when I got that message, I literally was like, okay. Like, I was just like, it wasn't really hallelujah. It was like, okay, I surrender. Like, I literally was like, if this is what you truly want, if this is what is truly meant to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, like I've got nothing else. Like, I've got nothing else to give. I can't fight anymore. Yeah. I'm exhausted. So I literally was like in that place of surrender. It's just like, okay, like, if this is it, it's like, okay. So I, finished up. I somehow found the composure to get through my day, and went home. Packed some clothes, grabbed the kids, and I'm like, well, we're not going to stay here. If you want this separation, I'm not going to stay here. So I grabbed what I could, packed the kids in the car, drove to the only place I could go, which was back to my parents' house. And he was like, and this is the thing that he asked for just before I drove off. Where's the ring? Like, and I'm just thinking,
but didn't he take it? Didn't he?
He had the engagement ring, but not the wedding ring.
Oh, right.
He wanted that back. Really, like to me, I'm thinking, how petty. Like, really, like, that's. And I just looked at him and just like, fine, here you go. And so that was March 2013, and that was a challenging year. Because, like, I literally went to my parents' house, but they had sort of seen, I mean, they knew things were rocky already. Yeah. Right? So they weren't expecting me to come home with like clothes and the kids. Yeah, and just we just need to kind of stay here for a while and all that. And so, they weren't going to turn me away, but it was very much like a shock for them. And they even did, so that was in March. I was meant to go away in April. And I remember the night before I was going to go on this Dallas trip, they did an intervention, a family intervention. So
your parents did?
The family, my parents and the
everyone.
Family, right? Everyone. Yeah. So I remember, like, because I dropped off the kids to their dads, and I came home. I was like, I'm just going to have a chilled night. I'm just going to pack the bags, just relax. And I come home, and I see my brother's cars there. So I'm just like, I know what this is. It's just like, this is not normal. I'm like, okay, I know what this is about. But I'm just like, okay, I've got home, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to go to my room and do what I need to do. And then I get a knock on the door. And I think it was my dad. I can't remember who it was, but I'm pretty sure it was my dad. He's like, can you come downstairs? We kind of want to have a chat with you. And I'm just like, here we go. So I'm just like, okay. And so I went downstairs
Spanish
and it was
position.
Like, that's what it felt like, right? It felt like, so I went downstairs, my mom, my dad, my brothers. Were there. And I'm pretty sure my sister-in-law was there. So basically everyone was there. And it was basically like, what are you doing? Are you seriously going to go on this trip? Like your family's falling apart. And I'm just like, well, I'm already booked my trip. Like I'm not going to not go. Right? Yeah. Like I've already paid for all of
You've
this.
already,
I'm not
the flights booked.
Everything's booked. I'm not going to cancel in the last minute.
Booked.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, but they were like, oh, but you should be listening to your husband. Why aren't you listening to your husband? Are you really prepared to let your family fall apart because of this? Well,
but it wasn't because of the Dallas trip, right? It was obviously.
No. It was obviously what was happening. It wasn't just because of the Dallas trip, but even though my mum was like, you shouldn't be going, you still shouldn't be going on this trip. And my brother's like, well, she's already paid for, like, like that's a bit silly for her too, because I basically lose everything, right? If I just cancel now and not actually go on this trip. And it was they were very much like, what are you doing? Why? It was an interrogation, like it was literally an interrogation.
And they were obviously concerned for you too, right?
Concerns around. The biggest concern was around the family. Yeah, about the repercussions were,
separation,
the separation, what's going to happen to the kids, and so that was their biggest thing is the kids. But my mum has always had this thing around not letting the family unit break apart. That was her biggest thing. That was her biggest thing that she's worked hard in her whole life, is to not have the family unit break apart, because that was, that's her big thing. Yeah. But it's almost like her biggest fear was coming to fruition.
For her daughter, for her daughter.
Yeah, for her daughter. But it was like her biggest thing was like, that was not going to happen. That was not going to happen in her family. And it was happening right in front of her. Not herself, but her daughter was going through it. But the thing was, it was triggering her own wounds and her own.
That hadn't been healed.
Hadn't been healed, right? And so she was projecting all of her stuff on me. And it was very much like, you should be doing this. It was like, but I'm not you, Mum. Like, I'm not, I can't be you.
Completely different time.
I can't be you.
Completely different person.
Completely different person. And, it's like, he hasn't done anything wrong. Like, I get it. He hasn't done anything wrong. As a husband, as a father, he hasn't done anything wrong. He's the one who doesn't want to support me. He's the one that's basically saying, if you do, like giving me these ultimatums. And for me, like, yes, as much as I don't want
you do want to submit to him. You do want to be supportive to him, but he wasn't doing the same to you.
He wasn't doing the same, but also like, what example do I want to show my kids? Like the biggest thing that I want to show my kids is, if you've got a dream, you go after it. As long as you're not hurting anyone, you're not hurting the planet, you're not hurting anyone, you follow it. Follow that voice that's calling to you.
But Joergette, you were already on a trajectory, so nothing was going to stop you, right? Nothing. Not your husband, not your challenging family,
everyone
nothing.
Was like, I was met with such opposition, resistance. Like no one was. I had no one to support me. Like literally, no one to support me. Even though like I've got these new friends that I've met and all of that, and honestly though, like they were the biggest support throughout this whole time, because they knew what I was going through, and they knew what I had been going through, what I was dealing with. And so at least I had that, right? But I had, my previous friends didn't understand what was going on. My, husband at the time didn't get me. I was like literally the only one. And I'm like, everyone saying, you're wrong. And I'm
don't
thinking,
go, don't do this, don't.
Am I actually like, am I doing the right thing? But again, I just kept following the feeling, and following that urge, and following the intuition, and just following. I'm like, okay. And every time I kept doing that, yes, there was opposition, but I would grow as a result of it. And so the more I just kept doing that, and I just made a promise to myself that I'm going to continue to pursue my passions.
Yeah, good on you.
Because that's all I can show. That's what I want to show my kids, is that, when you've got a passion, when you've got a dream, you pursue it. And you do what you can, right? And so it wasn't like I was trying to be the rebel. Like I wasn't consciously rebelling. It was just like, I'm just following what I'm being called to do. Like that's what this is. I'm being called to do this work. And I felt like no one could understand me. So even though my dad wasn't, he wasn't as opposing as my mum, but he was trying to come from a place of
neutrality, as you said.
Neutrality, instead of saying that
sitting on the fence.
But I was just like, no one's cheering me on. Like, no one's cheering me on. Of all people, like, Dad, like, So, but that whole year, I made that promise to myself of I'm just going to continue living my passions. And one of the things that I had wanted to do that I had held off for ages was dancing, because I love dance and I wanted to get into Latin dancing and into stuff. And so I did. I was just like, I'm going to sign up to classes. I had a friend who gave me, because he was a member of this Latin dance school. He was like, I can give you 50% off a program. I'm like, sweet, sign me up. I'm doing it. So good.
It's meant to be.
I just started doing that, and I loved it because that was my
creative, for you to get
just to let loose, to move my body, relax. Just to get creative. And I loved it. Like I actually kind of miss that now because I don't get to do it as much, or not really at all. But I started just doing that. And, throughout that as well, like I did a course called The Art of Feminine Presence, which is really about coming back into my own feminine energy and rebalancing, because I realized I had become so masculine in my energy, being the, go, 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 action, and trying to control everything and all of that. And so I had become imbalanced in my own masculine and feminine energy. And so I did this course, and I became actually did the teacher training as well it's called The Art of Feminine Presence. And they're practices that help you to come back into your feminine energy and to rebalance, because that's what I needed at the time. I needed to just get back into my feminine. And salsa was a really great way to do that, to just get into my body. And as I started to do that, that was in, September, October of 2013. And then that's how I actually met Anthony's through salsa class. At this dance school, he started doing it as well with his brother. And that's how we met in October of 2013.
Wow.
And it was already it was connection.
But also
I still wasn't like, I was separated, but I wasn't like, I was in my mind, I'm just like, well, this marriage has dissolved. Like we're not, there's nothing's going to happen anymore, because that whole year, my ex-husband made it very, very challenging, but made it very, very clear that he didn't want to have anything to do with me. And he even made it challenging with the kid situation. And so there was no communication, nothing for a whole year. But when I met Anthony, there was a connection, but it wasn't, I think he had a girlfriend at the time. And so it wasn't like nothing was going to happen. But then January of the following year, my ex-husband was like, I want to reconcile. So it's like after silence, nothing. He's like, I want to reconcile. Let me take you out for your birthday and this and that, like all of this stuff. And I'm just like, well.
But you guys hadn't spoken about anything about the stuff that had happened before.
Nothing was like we he's like, let's just catch up. And, we caught up and we had a big chat. But it was like, he basically was like, I want to reconcile. I want to work this out. But by then, because I had done so much work, so much inner work on myself, I was like, wow, okay, this is interesting, because now instead of it being forced on me, it was like the universe was saying, okay, now you have a choice. You have a choice now. There's a fork in the road. Do you go back to this relationship thinking that, hey, it's going to get better? Or do you keep going on this other path of self-discovery, of self-empowerment? Because I was just like, do I really want to go back to that? Because I felt controlled. In that relationship, I felt suppressed. I felt controlled. I felt like I had to, there was a lot of expectations that were put on me, the conditioning, the cultural, the societal, all of that. Right. And so I thought, let's hypothetically, if I did go back to that, would things be any different? Would things actually be better? And would things change? And I dug deep and felt like, you know what, I don't feel or don't believe that it actually, but I would regress. Essentially, that's what I felt. And I also tuned in. I thought, do I even want to? Like, how do I actually feel about this guy?
I was just going to ask you, how
am I
did
in love
you
with him?
feel?
Like, am I still in love with this guy? And he actually said that to me. He's like, oh, aren't you in love with me anymore? And I said, like, I love you because you're the father of our kids. But if you're asking me if I'm in love with you, I don't
romantically.
Yeah, romantically. If I'm
because there's a different type of love, right? When you're
different, yeah. And I said, I actually don't know. But then I thought, well, if I don't know, that's actually already the answer.
Yeah, that's usually
that's already the answer.
Yeah.
So that to me felt very empowering because I was able to actually say to him, no, I actually don't want to go back. And I didn't want to, I just wasn't there anymore. Like I was in a completely different space already. And that felt empowering, that felt liberating because I felt like I was taking my power back. And actually, because I had taken my power back and said to him, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing it anymore. Like it's great. Like, thank you for wanting this, but it's like,
what is the reason behind, like, what was his reason behind it, right? You sort of had to think, where is he coming from?
Where is he coming
is there
from?
an alternative agenda?
It's like, yes, he misses me, he misses the family and all of that. It's like, but again, it was like I had to make it about, well, what do I actually want? Like,
and then he probably also had a bit of a self-discovery moment as well, right, from that period. And it was ballsy of him, I think, to come and say that, right? Because not a lot of, because guys, especially when a relationship breaks up, and it's because of 80% one side and 20% of that side. Usually the guy is afraid to do that because they think that you're going to say no, so they just don't ever ask. But for him to do that, for me, it shows that there was that love, but it was a narcissistic type of love, right? Not a love coming from a deeper level.
And so it was like, to me, it was such a strong no, I don't want to go back to that.
And it was
because
right in front of his face. Like when you hadn't communicated for such a long time, that must have just been, did you feel as if there should have been a video, but to capture that moment in your life?
Yeah, totally. I was just like, is this for real? Like, is this actually happening? But for me to even have the courage to say my truth, speak my truth and go, like, no, I actually don't want that.
But you did
okay
rationalize it. You thought about it, right? And he could see that, like he could see that in front of him. And so therefore I think that made him more at peace with what you told him, what you shared with him. And you probably are closer now, would I say, after that time?
Not necessarily.
Like, no, right.
No.
Okay.
Like our it's amicable, but it's not like even
like
then,
you wouldn't go on trips together sort of thing.
Even then, it's still very much a separation between them, which is, I guess that's kind of the next level of what I would, because I would love to be able to get to a stage where we can actually have joint celebrations instead of having separate celebrations for the kids' birthdays, etc. Because for me, like, I'm willing to do that, but on his side or his side of the family, they're very much like cut it off. It's just like cut her off. Like when I pick up the kids and stuff, I don't even feel welcome to go inside the home. Like I don't, because you can feel the energy.
You can just feel the
energy, right? And so I don't even step. I'll knock or ring the doorbell, but I won't even go in because the energy is just like, okay, I'm not even going to step foot. I'm not
it's
even
not where you're at.
Why would I want to surround myself in that negative energy? So I will just stay outside. But I mean, I'm amicable with him when it comes to the kids, when what needs to happen, but we're not best friends. Like, I mean, I would love to be able to, have that relationship where it's just like, we can still be friends, but I just don't, since the separation, I have not been welcomed. Well, since I made that decision, essentially. Because even before that decision, I was invited to his brother's wedding, and they all welcomed me. But then as soon as I made the decision that no, it's not gonna happen, it was like they basically had just gone, no,
that's it. Yeah,
that's it.
She's cut us off, so we're going to cut her off.
Yeah,
that type
and
of
it's
thing.
like it was like very much like, well, okay, that's just how their family are, and that's how their family operate. Even though on my end, we're very, he's still very much welcome. My family still respect him and all of that. Whereas the other way around, it's just like, no, I'm the bad guy.
The black sheep. Yeah.
Totally. So, and I'm like, but I've accepted that. Like, I've come to an acceptance of that, and I'm just like, well, I'm not here to please anyone.
People.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that's their stuff. I'm not taking that on. Like, that's for them to. Yeah, that's their own woundings that they've got to deal with. So yeah, but that's how essentially my partner Anthony and I met through salsa. Eventually got together in February of 2014. And then that's a whole nother story, which is, but yeah, like, fast forward to now, it's really, I guess the how I want to drive this home is, I always held on to that belief and I always held on to.
You deserved more.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Because it was like, if I hadn't taken those steps, it's like, divorce and separation.
You wouldn't be with that.
I wouldn't be where I am today. And you wouldn't have even the partnership that we have is so different. It's on a soulful level. And our connection is on all different levels.
Yeah, but that's also because you guys met at that level as well, right?
Yeah, and we were both doing what we love. Like we had done, he was also doing his own self journey, discovery, and we were both doing what we enjoyed, and so we were at that place of
connectedness already, right from the beginning, which is a great foundation.
And he was doing stuff with like John DeMartini. He was studying his work, and so he was doing his own bit, and I was doing my stuff, and that's how we met. And then when we got together, when we decided, okay, this is going to be like an exclusive, relationship, that's when our spiritual journey evolved as a couple. And then, and then fast forward to now, we've got the twins, and like it's really that I held on to the belief that we don't have to, that you can be doing
go with the norm, right?
You don't have to go with the norm, exactly. But also that you can still be a good mum and do what you love and do what you're passionate about and still be a good partner. You don't have to. It's not like this one or the other. It's like, do you want to have your purpose or do you want to have your family? It doesn't have to be one or the other.
No, there's blends.
You can blend it, right? You can have all.
Yeah, like blended families.
Have to be a choice. And essentially that's what we have, is a blended family, right? Because I've got Jai and Jermaine, and we've got the twins, so we are a blended family, and it's not the norm, especially in a Filipino society. I mean, obviously, when you're in Australia, there's probably becoming more of a norm, but it's not necessarily the norm. The cultural,
from a strict Filipino Catholicism upbringing. Yeah,
exactly, which is what I had, right? And so really my journey is around overcoming the cultural norms, the societal, the family norms, and really go, because I had to, not that I had to, but I had to go against the grain of all the conditioning, of all the things that I was brought up to believe, and what a good Filipino woman does.
Wife should do, a girl should be. Yeah.
You're a good wife, good mother, and these are the things that you do. These are the
it's almost like having a bit of a tick list, right? And it's like, it's not like that, right? You
pretty much. It was
life
like
evolves around ticking boxes.
Yeah, but that's what it felt like when I was in that marriage. It was I had to live up to those expectations of who everyone thought I had to be as a woman, as a wife, as a mother. These are the ways that you behave.
And you just didn't want to be in that box.
I was boxed in, and I was just like, but no. Like,
I'm an angel and I need to get out.
But I'm not even this. I'm not the housewifey
type.
Type. Like, I'm not
too
the
motherly.
Type. Like, I'm a mom, yes, but I'm not gonna be like, I have, like, I will. Yeah, like I desire more from
Yeah.
life, a
Yeah,
desire
and there
be
is
one
more,
husband.
Georgette.
Yeah.
I think when we become mums, we feel that society is saying to us, you have to put away all your dreams or park all your dreams.
Yeah.
Look after your child until they're from 0 to 18.
Pretty much.
And then after that, you can go back to your dream.
Then you can do your dream.
Yeah, that is what it's like. But I've always anyway,
so that's
I'm very much in agreement with you. So thank you, George.
But that's my, I guess, in a nutshell, that's my story, and
it's a powerful one, honey. But I really the bit that resonated with me from the level that I'm at right now was the January 2014. That bit, that is where, when your husband physically asked to reconcile with you.
Yes.
But then you were also going through your growth journey, your spirituality journey. You had also met Anthony, right? You'd started doing the salsa classes.
Yes.
And then, that period is
that's
where I believe
the transition is.
Yeah, that was when
the fork on the road.
The real sort of breakthrough occurred, right? In your journey.
Yeah.
Even though all those other things were really, really important. Have you done a lesson on telling your story in a professional?
Not a lesson as such.
Yeah.
Not a lesson as, I mean, I've done little bits and pieces of like masterclasses and that. I haven't done, which I've always wanted to do, is like actual professional speaker training. But for me, it's just like, well, I haven't felt the pull, or I haven't found the one for that.
Yeah.
Because for me, there is a structure, but I also just drop in and share what I kind of just empty my vessel and just allow what is meant to come through. And I just trust that whatever transmission comes through is what is meant to be given in that particular moment. But I haven't, to answer your question.
So you haven't had like somebody, like a speaker as such, say this is
not
how to structure your story. I'm actually going to do one. It's to do with food for thought, right? And apparently this woman teaches you how to share your story, but in a testimonial way, right? Because you know that you wouldn't have got there without God's help. You absolutely know it in your heart. And I know that. Anyway, we were meant to be doing this course in Feb, but it's already March now, right? We haven't done this course, but it is something obviously that I'd like to do. So I'll find out more about it and see if you can sit in, right? Because you could even like sit in on the actual training, because I know that it would help you just sort of try and concentrate more on the levels that are going to speak to people, right? Because all that other stuff is really important, but it's trying to sort of find out, like, and when you mentioned the art of feminism presence, that also sort of sparked something in you when you said that to me. So I know that that's a huge part of your
definitely was.
I'll find a book, because a girlfriend of mine, she specializes in coaching relationships, or women find men and men find women. And she gave me this book, or recommended I read this book, which really helped me. And it was a polarity between the feminine and the masculine, right? And how to see it from a man's point of view. It didn't really help with me. Obviously, I'm separated now, so it didn't help with me, but I know that it's helped with other women. So it might even be something that you add to
I'm always
especially when it's to do with that, and with what you're trying to share in terms of overcoming the cultural aspect of the norms. You really sort of want to drive that more. And it's about finding a specific component from the title of your book, but just from what you've told me, that's like 6 or 7 different programs you can do just in those things, right? So, but I really look forward to your journey, Georgette, because
thank you.
It is inspiring. And it's and I will definitely have a look at the passion test book.
I'll send. Yeah, I don't have one to show you here, but yeah, just Google it. Like I'm sure you could get it on Amazon or something. Yeah, Google it. But yeah, definitely, that's what really, when I read that book, and I actually read that book like even before, like this was after 2005, 2006. I read that book, and that was really that was like next level for me.
Yeah,
because it really
especially after doing that personal development stuff with Christopher.
It was the Christopher Howard one. It was through the NLP course that I found out about the passion test book.
Yes, there you go. Right.
And that really drove home to me, what's actually really important for me.
Yeah.
Because it helps you to understand what your top 5 passions are and what's truly most important. And that's what I continue to kind of live by. It's like what's truly important for me. And any decision I make, is this moving me towards my passions, or is it moving me away? And if it's going to move me closer, then say yes. But if it's going to move me away, then I can lovingly say no. So that's been the book that I even make reference to it in my chapter in the book, that that was like the biggest
the catalyst for you. And are you finding that you're saying no a lot more now without feeling guilty?
Yes.
Or you,
I'm better. I'm getting better. I still feel at times it's challenging because I'm a recovering people pleaser, but I find it easier now to lovingly say no, even though there are still times when I feel obligated to. And I think the most challenging thing is when it comes to family, is that's the challenge that I have with saying no to family, even though I am getting better at that.
Good. It's always good. And like life lessons, we're always learning, right? Every single moment of the
absolutely.
day, we're always learning. And you should sort of commit to learning at least one new thing a day. Every morning, every time I log into my laptop, and it's become a sort of mindfulness thing for me, Joergette. Screens will come on, like to do with nature, and it'll mention where that place is, right, in the world. So I started a log, places to visit in 2021. And I started another log for this year, places I'd like to visit in 2022. But just purely by going through those and looking at all those beautiful pictures and where you could go to in the world that is so beautiful. But the other day I came across an artist called, I'm pretty sure his name was Cavaletto, something like that, right? I can't remember his full name, but Cavaletto was short for, or Canaletto was short for something else.
Okay.
And he was one of the really good Venetian painters from the late 1600s to 1760 something when he passed away. But if you see his, I'll probably flick you through that same thing that I saved. But just by going through that, the image that he painted of Venice was just miraculous, right? It was just so beautiful. I had to learn more about this man. So of course because it doesn't take long, right? 5-10 minutes, quickly Google, learn something new. And it brought me joy because I saw such beauty in his paintings, and a wonderful story too, because he spent quite a lot of his life fighting the Venetian art gallery, right? Because they obviously wouldn't pay him for the work that he was doing, even though he was selling paintings to different aristocrats, right, that visited Europe. He wasn't getting anything, and he actually died poor, Joergette, right? And so I think that was another lesson to, not sort of, even though he was doing something that he was so passionate about, he wasn't getting remunerated, right, for it. And that's another thing for us to also realize, that what we have, the knowledge that we have access to, is so valuable. But there's been also a lot of things that I've done for nothing, courses that I would normally charge $2,000 for, I did for absolutely nothing, because I wanted to get to a position where I was getting it out and making it sort of more available for people. Yeah, it was just done so well, and it was almost formatted as if this was a recording, but we didn't know it was, right?
Hey.
Anyway, so that's how good we are.
It's just so awesome.
You're so awesome, honey. Thank you.
That's the beauty of it. That's just the beauty of
this was
it's in the moment, and that's I feel like, especially for stories like this, it's the raw, and and this is how, when I share my story, this is where I come from, and this is how I just share it. It's just coming
from a space of
it's not like
heart-centric.
I don't want to be I think when I first started my speaking journey, like I was very much this polished and proper. And then the teacher at the time, she's just like, you're too polished. You're too polished.
You're too professional.
You're too
Actually,
professional.
That's what
it's like,
sort of,
you need to scrap that. You need to scrap that. I'm just like, how do I even do that, right?
Yeah, and you don't want to dull it down too much it loses all of your personality.
I need to have the authority. I still need to stand with credibility and authority, but there's a way that you can still have that presence without being so prim and have it all memorized. Like
exactly.
It's just like, and that's where I guess you could call it intuitive speaking. I don't know.
No, good.
But that's just, I love it. That's just how I like. That's how I like to do it, because it allows me to just be free. Free to express what needs to come out in the moment.
Just be. Yeah, that's gorgeous.
Cool.
All right, my darling. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this amazing opportunity. I have loved our conversation.
Yeah, me too. All right. I've learned more about you, and thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing it with me too.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Take care.
Well, take care.
Bye, kitties. See you, Anastasia. Bye, Antoinette.
You want to say? Oh, she's like, wait for me. I want to say bye.
Bye.
Are you coming?
See you, my darling.
I have to talk one.
Okay. I'm going to. Yeah. There you go.
See you, Antoinette. See you, Anastasia. Bye, darling. Lots of love. Bye. All right. Look after your mummy.
Thanks, darling. Okay.
See you, my darling. All right. Thanks so much. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
What an exceptional conversation I just had with the beautiful and courageous and very sassy Joergette Medel. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with her. She's a fantastic mum, as you could tell how she dealt with her twins, Anastasia as well as Antoinette, when they came into the room. It didn't faze her whatsoever. She just continued as it was, and I felt it was important to keep those beautiful parts in, because that makes Joergette the woman and the leader and mother that she is. So I thank you again for listening in. I know that you got so much out of that, and I will put the links in the marketing for you to please absolutely support Joergette. I know that we're probably about a month and a bit behind from recording, but I'm not being apologetic whatsoever in terms of, the delay. Yeah, look forward to you coming on and having a listen to episode 17, which will be out within the next week and a half to fortnight from this one. Alrighty. Thank you all, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.